The change we fought for these past few years.
I'm sure will be tons of speeches that say exactly what I want to hear.
If people ask you, what's this campaign about?
I'm not interested in what he says anymore. I'm interested in what he's done.
You tell them it's still about hope.
I don't know if we can recover from this.
You tell them it's still about change. Hope. Change. Hope. Change.
As he would say it, we're ready for a change.
And I don't feel he deserves a second chance.
He promised change. Promise, promise, promise.
Obama let me down.
It's sad. It makes me angry. That really makes me very, very angry.
It just hasn't worked.
4 more years of Barack Obama would just be 4 more years of gridlock.
We tried change, and this is what change got us.
It'll be a travesty if that happens.
I could not vote for another 4 years of Obama.
I voted for the wrong guy.
Let's get the nation back in order.
I am not voting for President Obama. That much I do know. He's done a lousy job.
He didn't make good on any of his promises.
Smoke and mirrors.
Farther and farther in debt.
Deficit is going up. Business is closing.
Government handouts.
I'm so disappointed.
I expected a lot more.
We're divided.
We're spending way too much.
I have no optimism.
I fear for my children. People are angry.
It's more discussed at this point.
I'm exhausted and I'm tired.
The healthcare costs are going up.
False hope. To me, it looks very dismal.
It's not hopeful.
That's just heartbreaking.
I've always been Democrat.
I am a Democrat.
I live in Florida.
Registered Democrat.
I'm an independent.
I was raised Democrat.
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 On the east side of Des Moines, Iowa.
I voted for President Obama. I voted for Obama.
Of course, I voted for
Northeast Ohio.
Democrat.
Virginia.
My background's more independent.
Typically, I vote more Democrat, but not this election.
I cannot vote for President Obama again.
Now, welcome to this special edition of Hannity. Now, you just saw part of the new movie titled The Hope and the Change. Now, the hour-long film is a product of Citizens United and highlights a large group of registered Democrat and independent voters who supported President Barack Obama back in 2008. But now, 4 years later, they're not buying into the hype, the hope, the change. And the movie's going to premiere on Tuesday in Tampa at the Republican National Convention. And then in September, just in time for Election Day, the movie will be out in theaters. But tonight, only on Hannity, you will be able to see large portions of this film. And then later, you're going to hear directly from some of the voters that are featured in the movie and all that voted for Obama in 2008 and will no longer be supporting him this election. Joining me now are the writer, director of the film, Steve Bannon, the film's producer, David Bossie, and Fox News contributor, Pat Caddell. Now, Pat consulted on the making of this film. All right, I don't say this lightly, but I mean every word of this. This is the most powerful documentary I've ever seen in my life. There's no way that anybody watches this film could vote for Barack Obama. It's impossible. You bring us back and walk us through the whole election cycle. It's almost like I feel like I have amnesia and I follow this every day. Tell us how you got started.
Dave and I, last year at this time, sat down and talked about having a film for this cycle. And we didn't just want to make a film that talked to conservatives or talked to Tea Party people. We wanted to really think through, kind of look at it through David Axelrod's eyes in the summer and fall of 2012. And we said, if you look at those battleground states, 7 states, 100 counties, 7 or 8 states, 100 counties, 5 to 6 million voters, all Democrats, all independents that voted for President Obama. And that's when we reached out to Dave reached out to Pat Caddell. We needed people that help us find the pool of people that are out there that were so strongly supported President Obama. We want to go through the journey of their lives and the journey of the country in the last 4 years. So
it's almost like an awakening process. You remind us the huge crowds, the yes we can, and I'm not going to have to put gas in my car or pay for my mortgage if we elect Barack Obama. I mean, there was almost like this hypnotic trance. You capture that, and now people wake up 4 years later.
It's a very powerful film, Sean. I think that is saying it in their own words. And as Steve said, these are Democrats and independents. These are what I consider, people bandy about, the political professionals bandy about the Reagan coalition. In my opinion, that's who these people are. And if politicians can learn to speak to middle America, these people, they're going to win a lot of elections.
You know, Pat, you're a Democrat. You've been outspoken against the Obama administration. Very different Barack Obama in 2012 than the one on this film. This was an uplifting figure that was going to unite the world and
what's important is that all of the people who appear in this film, who are, again, Democrats, Independents, no Republicans, or no conservatives, no Tea Party people, these are people who were in the middle or, conservative Democrats or moderate Democrats, but they believed. What you're talking about is they invested a great deal of hope. And their disappointment. Now, Sean, you're a conservative. Your objections to Obama.
No, I had Obama nailed from the beginning, Pat. So, in terms of seeing through this.
But these voters invested other kinds of hopes, and their disappointment in what they did not get, what he promised, and what he's delivered. And what is shocking is hearing their own words. And my job in this, what I help them do is, you want to do this straight. You've got to go out and talk to people in their language, not your language, not the people you talk to, and let them express it, because it will shock you because they're not heard in America. I think that's the best word.
Look, and we're going to show a lot, folks, you got to see this. We're going to show you a lot of the film throughout this next hour. I think that's the word that I would use. It shocked me to go back and to see the crowds and to see people, and this moment where people thought that this country was going to get better and change, and that this unifying figure, and seeing it through the prism of today.
Right.
And the negativity in this cycle.
Right. Can I just say, everybody likes to, on a daily basis, attack Citizens United for our Supreme Court case. We went to the Supreme Court and fought the Federal Election Commission for our right to do this. We didn't go to create super PACs. We didn't go to create American Crossroads or allow unions to be able to spend a lot more money. We went to the Supreme Court for our First Amendment rights to be able to make films and advertise them, which was a criminal act. Under McCain-Feingold. And so I'm proud to say this is our first film since the Supreme Court.
That's a great point. Really is. When you're going through that old footage, though, and you see the crowds and the select moments that we all remember.
It was unbelievable. I mean, when we decide, you look at the crowds and how they look. You look at the catharsis.
Crying, Jesse Jackson's crying, and all these celebrities.
One of the reasons I got the idea, and when we heard the focus groups, and then when we started interviewing people, I asked them to go back to the summer 2008 when he first became conscious of Barack Obama, asked them to go back to Election Day, asked them to go back on Grant Park the night, and the emotion, the investment people had in President Obama, it was unbelievable. And so when you put it together with the footage and hear him talk about it, you could see that this country, President Obama, for a moment in time, had something I think that was very unique in American history, and you see kind of how it's evolved over time.
Maybe this is the wrong question. Was it all an illusion? In other words, was he almost like a product of slick marketing?
Can I just say, I don't think the people that are in this film, and a lot more people that we spoke to in the focus groups, they really didn't understand Barack Obama's background. They didn't understand, our first film in 2008 about Jeremiah Wright and about the terrorist connections and all of the background, all of his background. They didn't understand it nor care.
But you remember, as Democrats and Independents, you're talking, and that's what Pat and Kendra Stewart were so important. They have a different nomenclature. Those types of things that people were talking about in 2008 that even came up about Reverend Wright, that is not even on the horizon.
It really isn't.
It's not on the horizon, Sean. Yeah. It was very much focused on bringing the country together.
We got to take a break, Pat. I promise we'll get you back in the next segment. Now, we're going to have more with Steve, David, and Pat coming up after the break. Then later, you're going to hear from Democrat and independent voters featured in this film. Now, they will explain why they once believed in Barack Obama's Hope and Change slogan and why they now say they regret their vote.
I think he is in over his head.
I don't think he was well prepared for these problems.
I don't think that I got what I was expecting.
At first I thought Obama, when he first came in office, was making things better and bringing people together, but my strong belief is he's made it worse, drove people apart.
He's not uniting the citizens to come together and be just one America. He's instead pointing out racial issues. He's pointing out income issues.
The message of the protesters is a message for establishment every place.
Yeah, there's a type of a class warfare that is taking place.
The focus is on Wall Street and justifiable stuff.
The protesters are giving voice to a more broad-based frustration about how our financial system works. If you got a business, that you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
It has divided the people because there are a lot of people out there that feel, hey, I work very, very hard for what I have. And I don't like people putting their hands in my pocket and telling me that I have to give it to someone else.
And welcome back to this special edition of Hannity. That was another clip from the film The Hope and the Change, and we continue with the men behind the movie, Steve Bannon, Dave Bossie, Pat Goodell. That's interesting, because we keep hearing, Pat, you're a Democrat, class warfare, they've doubled down on this.
Well, people are very upset about it. You remember, the thing that these people wanted was to unite the country. They wanted to change the way politics worked. He promised for Democrats independence. We're disappointed. That's a big thing. But let me say something about these people, because this is the business I've been in for a year, going out and talking to people, my people, if you will, and seeing them, is that no one we have a political class, political cognoscenti, we don't talk, we just tell you what those people think. Those voices, what they describe, as you see in this film, how they feel about the country, what they worried about their future, what they're going through in their own lives. There are moments in this when you watch and you sit in these focus groups and we talk to these people where I wanted to cry, because you realize how poignant, and they all, this is nothing was scripted, nothing was programmed, and you can tell that this is the voice of America. And you know what? Other Americans are going to see this and say, my God, that's what I think.
But this is what's extremely profound about the film, and why I say it's the best documentary I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of them in the course of my life, is as I watch this, every time we talk about 1 in 6 Americans in poverty, every time we give out statistics, $5 trillion in debt, 25 million underemployed, 15, a million more Americans on food stamps. These are the people that are hurting, suffering, and they're not getting what they were promised.
Listen, the power of this film, I think, comes from the fact that you hear ordinary working Americans, the middle class,
the heart and soul
of this country, and they are so much more articulate than the political class of both parties and even the media. They understand that our country's in an existential crisis, a financial and economic existential crisis that is destroying America, because it's destroying their lives and their children's lives.
Here's what I was wondering, though. I agree, but I get callers to my radio show. I'm almost convinced that if we had Barack Obama on tape, robbing a bank and shooting all the tellers, they'd say, well, that's okay, because we got to give the money to the poor. There's some people that have never woken up from that trance state.
That's right.
Why?
Well, look, you have the hardcore, and you're always going to have that on both sides. To be
You're the ones
honest.
that hate Pat Goodell.
Well,
on both sides.
But look, these people are so important, as Pat was saying, to listen to and not talk to. That is the key to November's election, in my opinion.
Yes.
Yeah. You're listening to them, letting them. But this is, I think, for the country, for the voters, as I said, people will identify themselves. We're missing this story. Our media doesn't cover them. We all talk about what we know about politics. We look at polls and say, this is how people feel. This is the voice of America. And this is the voice of the people who will decide this election. It's not the people who call in for Obama or the people you call in because they're totally against it. By the way, not one of these people, we had no discussion in these, and it's important to know this. There's no discussion about Romney, Republicans, or anything. No. It was all about the journey that they had been on.
Because they all bought into Obama.
They invested. They believed
and voted for him.
But the politics.
Now the disillusion.
They bought in. They made a connection because he said he was going to bring the country together and solve the economic crisis. This, I believe, President Obama's and David Axelrod's strategy of division in trying to do the identity politics. At best, if he is to win, it'll be a Pyrrhic victory. Because when you hear these people talk, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to talk about it. They want you to focus on bringing the country together, and they want you to finish.
Yes,
and they want you to focus on
get out of the way.
Exactly. Fix the economy.
We're going to come back. We'll have more with Steve, David, and Pat coming up after the break, and then later, some of the voters in the film who were brave enough to come forward and tell their stories. They're going to join me right here on set, and they're going to explain why they believe President Obama has failed you, the American people.
We answer every problem by borrowing or printing.
It's like a spending frenzy there.
Stop spending when you don't have no money. It's just basic.
Going to be a change. Everyone that voted for him thought there was going to be a change.
I am responsible, and together we have to restore a sense of responsibility in Washington. We have to do what businesses and families do. We've got to cut out the things we don't need.
There's no eating out.
I don't have cable.
We don't have a cell phone.
All the extras have been cut out.
No extras.
I have to budget my gas every month.
When we're planning to go anywhere on a weekend, we take into account how far it is, how much gas it's going to be.
My kids, every day want this, want that. I have to say no, and I trying to find creative ways to tell him why he can't have something without saying I can't afford that. It's a struggle every single day.
We've had to make some sacrifices.
I mean, this is the limit. I gotta go by the budget.
Now, if you're a taxpayer concerned about deficits, I want you to understand I'm concerned about deficits too.
I've watched the debt get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it concerns me.
It's a continuation of, as our chairman has said, a budget that unfortunately spends a little bit too much, taxes too much, and borrows too much again. Well, at the end of the day, he's the chief executive, so the ultimate responsibility of the budget is his.
It would be better doing nothing than if we would actually pass this budget for the sake of our economy, for the sake of our future, and for the sake of jobs.
It's his job to come up with some fiscal plan that makes sense, that not only pays the bills, but helps us pay these debts that we have.
Maybe he just does not quite understand budgets because he hasn't had to live within a budget.
Wow. Welcome back to the special edition of Hannity. And by the way, in a few minutes, I'm going to be joined by some of the voters that you saw in that clip. And we continue in studio with Steve Bannon, Dave Bossie, and Pat Cadell. You know what's so amazing? And all of these people, everyone, was a Democrat, independent, voter for Obama.
Every one of them voted for Obama.
Enthusiastically.
Yes.
Every one of them voted. We got to remind people of this. One of the things that just grabbed me is the crowd size. This very week, Obama's campaign came out and they said, we're trying to limit the crowd sizes. Remember, he launched in Ohio. Half-empty house.
Right. There's a reason for it, Sean. And what you see, and I think what Steve captured in the beginning of the film. Because, remember, they're reminding people what they thought they were getting when they were part of those crowds. They don't want to do that. Look, David Axelrod and David Plouffe,
we call him Plouffe.
Mr. Plouffe, Messina, the Chicago Operation Campaign, they have done millions of dollars of focus groups with these people.
Exactly.
What we did is simply duplicate. They know how.
They know
the
how
problem-
bad it is.
Yes. That this is not, as I keep saying, is probably their worst nightmare, is to have those voters saying their disillusionment. Not that he is a socialist, but to say, he promises we're hurting. He's not helping us.
Right.
This is a killer.
So you agree that the Obama campaign knows this is how...
That's why, by the way, in seeing the film, that's why there's no vacation this year. That's why there's no soaring rhetoric. People are tired of hearing the rhetoric. He knows these focus groups. They say, we don't want to hear rhetoric. We want to see action. It's not
What about the negativity then? How do you explain that?
But this is the danger, I think, for him, because what they have decided, because I was involved in the campaign in 1980, which was involved in trying to say the other guy is worse. But that's another chapter of my life. But this is the negativity he's doing to divide. That you hear these people, you will hear these people on how they feel about the division in the country, how much it upsets them. It works against what he was. That's the danger.
That was the one thing he was able to hang on to.
That was the connection.
Likability. All right, so this is you're gonna unveil this next week in Tampa.
That's right.
And then it's going to be in theaters.
We're playing the night the President's Week at the DNC.
That's right. We'll be in
Charlotte. The night he talks, we're going to show
You're going to be showing it at the both.
Right beforehand.
Yeah, good luck. I'm not going to that viewing.
I mentioned we're going to be going. We're going to march this in to the battleground states and cities where the cast is from to put it in some theaters, and then hopefully within the next couple of days we're going to be announcing a major television deal.
So in other words, people will have a chance to see everybody in because I go back to my original statement. If everybody in America sees this film, and you're going to meet these people next, we're going to put them right up here on our set. They cannot vote for Obama. You see such a stark difference.
Yeah, I think people remember Fahrenheit 9/11. A lot of people saw that movie, but maybe millions, but hundreds of millions of Americans saw the impact that Michael Moore's ads had, and they were the best ads of the cycle, in my opinion. So we're going to be educating people all across the board.
You're about to see the heart and soul of America.
And by the way, the key was not to. This wasn't a rigged process. They can't accuse it. These were straight. This represented the groups. That's what.
I just met them. We're going to introduce them to people right now.
You'll see people
Guys,
when they see them.
Amazing movie. Thanks. Really incredible. So you'll be at the RNC, DNC, in theaters soon, and some TV deal coming.
That's right.
You won't tell me.
We'll show it all over America.
I really appreciate the love, Bossy. Thank you. All right. Guys, thanks for being with us. And coming up tonight, now we've shown you clips of the movie, The Hope and the Change. Coming up next, you're going to hear directly from the voters who are featured in this film when they join me right here on set in studio. That's next.
I'm very fearful for the financial future for both of my children.
And they're going to be living that crisis. And it's a big concern of mine. It's a fear that I live with.
I'm concerned about the future of this country. I'm concerned for my grandson. I'm concerned for my children. I just think if we keep on going down the path we're going, we're going to be in bigger trouble than we already are.
Looking for this total socialized medicine.
There were better fixes available than what we just did.
Thank you, everybody.
Right after I graduated college, I took a job in the billing office of a local hospital system, and I could see firsthand what the effects of Obamacare are going to be, and that it's not going to be a positive change.
As an immigrant, I really never thought that this day would come to where you would be forced to have, health insurance.
The more I understood, the more concerned I became, because when I see people being forced to pay for their insurance.
How can the federal government control what health care that we have?
I've dealt with basically government-controlled medicines and so on and so forth up in Canada.
Thank you.
It was primitive. It was just, you aren't going to get the same care out of Obamacare as what we are getting today.
Thank you, everybody.
If they can pass health care and mandate that we carry it and penalize us if we don't, I don't know where it's going to end.
Thank you.
Your health care that's becoming more and more what communist countries had, which was just having to wait in lines in order to be seen by a doctor.
I really never thought it would come to the day where I was forced to buy health insurance.
This is exactly what my father was trying to get away from back in communist Eastern Europe, is some of the same things that are happening right now in the government.
And welcome back to the special Hannity, and joining me now are some of the Democrat and independent voters featured in the movie The Hope and the Change. Now, they voted for Barack Obama in 2008, but he cannot count on their vote come November. They're here to explain why. Welcome all of you. Thanks. You're all big movie stars now. Thanks for being with us. Let's talk about where you were then, where you are now. What happened? Because the movie just shows all this excitement and everyone caught up in the moment. What happened?
Well, in the beginning, in 2008 at least, I was caught up in the moment too. I had that hope, that dream, that, wow, look at this guy, this is going to make things better. This guy's going to make changes that we all need. We're going to see our GDP go up. We're going to see jobs. We're going to see things made in America. It was a lot of bliss, at least it seemed it would be.
And you're a small business owner?
I am.
Okay, and how was your business from 4 years ago?
It certainly hasn't gotten a whole lot better. There are moments when I think things are going great, but right now it's in a slump.
Yeah. Gerald, you really, I listened to your comments, watched your comments a lot during the film, expressing a lot of disappointment.
Yes.
Tell me how you were then versus how you are today.
Well, back then, I think there was a lot of excitement based on a lot of things that were going on. I mean, he was a very charismatic individual that we were excited about. And as someone who's always voted straight party line voting, I've never had to really deal with certain issues, if you will, as a part of my decision for who I choose to vote for. But over the past 4 years, I'm a ordained minister.
Yes, sir.
And because of that, the past 4 years have been kind of a trying one for me, because I've been asked basically to try to accept some things that I fundamentally cannot accept. So
would one of them be the contraceptive mandate in the Obamacare bill? Just curious, based on the fact that you're a minister.
Well, that's part of it, but it's really the same-sex marriage issue.
You know what stood out at me, Amy? Let me ask you this. He's going to unite the country. Everybody's excited, and I look at how he's running this campaign. Are you following this campaign closely?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course, absolutely. It's important.
Well, I think it's important, but you see the change in tone. In other words, it's so divisive. He can't run on his record. He's not, he's not the unknown quantity he was reading from a teleprompter. Is that very discernible for you?
It's very clear, absolutely. Gosh, it's so transparent, the non-transparency that there's been. It's so clear now that he's not capable or able to do the things that he said he was going to do now. You can see it in the ads that he runs for his campaign. There's no basis. There's no looking at the issues. It's attacking personally.
Yeah, well, Romney, apparently, we didn't know it caused a woman to get cancer, and he's a felon, and he's a tax cheat. And by the way, he wants dirty air and water for our children. I mean, that's what it's now been reduced to. Right. Chad, you are a construction worker.
Yes.
I don't know to the extent you know my background, but that was my background for many, many years. I worked every area of construction. I have many friends in the construction business. Most of them are hurting. Most of them are struggling to keep, afloat right now. Are you experiencing the same thing?
Still experiencing the same thing, even after the 4 years, doing very well in the business, having the housing market crash, having to get out of the building part of construction that I was in, start over from the bottom in an AV installation industry, which is a small business, has also floundered over the last 4 years, barely managed to stay afloat, and have not seen anything turn back around as to we're going to build more houses, we'll put the country
What
back
happened to all
on
that stimulus money? When you hear that stimulus money went to, let's see, Brazil and a car company in Finland and Canada and Mexico and Solyndra and SunPower, and that these were guys, big bundlers for Obama, they got all this money. Did you get bailed out? Does that anger you?
No, I hope the car company in Finland's doing better, though, because the rest of us over here aren't. So.
With American tax dollars, you want them to do well?
Tax dollars? No, I don't want them to do well. I want him to stimulate this country with the money. I want him to keep it here, make us what we were.
How many of you think, just as a show of hands, if I may, and we're going to get you guys in the back row, I promise. How many of you think that the president really believed redistribution was the answer, and that he tried it, gave us $5 trillion in debt? And how many of you think that economic philosophy is a failure?
I do.
You do. You believe it would still work now?
No, it's not that I didn't raise my hand because I think it still works. I don't think he knows where to go right now. I think that he, got everybody excited. Everybody was hopeful. And now we're starting to realize that it's not. The change that he promised didn't come. What else does he have to promise? I think he's now trying to get excited in other ways. Like he's going out with the celebrities, he's becoming a man's man, he's, trying to be laid back. That's not where we're at.
That's a really good point. And we're going to pick up on that when we come back. And thank you all for being here. But you're all movie stars. And, we can, George Clooney, watch out, but the movie was very profound, had a very big impact on me. So thank you all for being here. And coming up, we're going to have more with our focus group of voters featured in the brand new movie. And they're going to explain what they think is happening to all of their hard-earned money as the special edition of Hannity continues. Thanks for being with us.
Do we pay rent or do we eat?
You want to have water to cook with tonight or a roof over your head?
I'm working 2 jobs.
I think a lot of us are working very hard for our families and for our communities, and I'm wondering if Obama is working as hard.
Government is looking after my tax dollars whatsoever. I feel like it's all a complete hustle, and we're the butt of the joke.
The middle class has not gotten bailed out in this entire process.
We're not big banks. We're not the stock market or car dealerships. We're just a small, average people, and in Obama's eyes, we don't count.
The stimulus was a shocker as well.
The American Recovery and Reinvestment Act that I will sign today is the most sweeping economic recovery package in our history. The beginning of what we need to do to provide relief for families worried that they won't be able to pay next month's bills. The first steps to set our economy on a firmer foundation.
It seemed like we decided very quickly, we'll just print more money. And that's what we've done for the last 4 years, print more money.
There's a huge trust factor. And Yeah, I don't know where the money came from in the first place to be able to give us a stimulus.
I'm not sure there's any watchdog groups watching any of this. It seems to be very unclear where all that money is going.
And welcome back to the special edition of Hannity. That was another clip from the brand new movie, The Hope and the Change. And still joining me are some of the voters featured in that movie. You know, President Obama said about George Bush in July of 2008 that George Bush took a credit card to the Bank of China in the name of our kids, and he rang up, $4 trillion in debt. It's now $9 trillion. That's irresponsible. That's unpatriotic. $4 trillion, 8 years. We already have $5 trillion going on 6 with Obama in under 4 years. What does that tell you about money?
Boy, it tells us that they're printing money, but I think that gets back to the heart of the issue.
Spending money.
Yeah, it's spending money. That's where I messed up when I was looking at this election, is he said all the right things, but I never asked, and he never said how he was going to do it. And I think he realized when he got in, he didn't know how to do it.
Yeah, good point. Michael?
I just believe he screwed us over, and he gave us hope, but the change came for him and his family, not for the average American person.
Yeah. One of the things, I want to ask all of you this general question that I have. I'm a conservative. Most of you know that. I tried to vet the president in 2008. And I went back and I looked at 20 years in Jeremiah Wright's church. I interviewed Jeremiah Wright. That was the last interview he did in that election cycle in March of 2007. I looked at his relationship with Bill Ayers. He started his political career in the home of an unrepentant terrorist who was part of a group that bombed the Pentagon, the Capitol, and New York City Police Headquarters. Throughout the course of that campaign, he was asked one question about Bill Ayers. Gave speeches with him, sat on boards with him, and he said he's just some guy in the neighborhood. Do you think his policies represent some of his radical background? Do you think he's more radical than you thought? Yes, hands up. Anybody? Yes? Yes? No?
No.
Would you hang out in Jeremiah Wright's church for 20 years?
No. That's that part, no. I would not.
Would you give a speech with an unrepentant terrorist that was part of a group called the Weather Underground?
Well, I guess what I should clarify my no is that...
All right, I'm being really mean. I'm just asking a serious question.
Ask the question. And the truth is that if I don't know the things that you're speaking on, then I can't have an opinion on it. But what I do believe is that my opinions that I do have of Obama are based on the fact of what he has promised and what we actually got. I can't say a whole lot about whether or not his policies are a failure, because I think he missed an opportunity. He had the ability to execute, and he spent most of his first year, at least, trying to get everybody to agree.
So this is more about results for you.
Well, it's 100% about results.
Yeah. So do you think vetting a president, though, on these important issues, I just think it told us a lot about him. And I was widely criticized. The president mentioned me as on the campaign trail at least 10, 12 times in 2007 and 8. He doesn't really like me. But I saw that he surrounded himself with radical people. Do your friends tell you about any opinions on this? Do your friends tell you about what you might have expected? Do you wish you vetted him, in other words? Maybe that's the question I'm trying to get to.
Yes. You wish you did. A lot of things. You got to understand, when you have been raised in a democratic home, and you've been basically taught to just straight party ticket. There's an option when you vote. You can just check that box and then everything down. And you're not even given the opportunity to really think for yourself.
I like your intellectual honesty. What do you think? Do you think you know more about him now, and maybe we just didn't pay attention to these things?
Yeah, I definitely feel I know more about him now. I think before it was a lot of, shining lights and snapshots and smiles and all that stuff that, drew many voters to him. And I'm an independent, so I didn't exactly grow up in, and the household I grew up in, a father that was Republican and a mother that was Democrat. So they basically went to the polls and canceled each other out.
Yeah.
So for me, that's why I became an independent. I said, well, I want to, I don't want to vote by party. I want to vote by candidate and see what they bring to the table. There's a good and bad on both sides.
Yeah. No, I think anyone else on this?
Yeah, I'm an independent, and I almost always vote conservative, Republican, whatever. And I didn't because I was frustrated, and I think that's why I didn't vet him the way I normally would have. He said everything.
By the way, I was frustrated with conservatives at the time. I thought they spent too much money. But the biggest deficit George Bush had was $450 billion. We have not had a deficit under Obama under $1 trillion.
But that seemed big then. right?
Yeah,
We didn't know what was coming.
No, I agree with you. And yeah.
I don't think he was actually, if I'm being honest, any more radical to me then than he is now. And I'll tell you why. Because earlier on, with the lights and the pictures and the hope and the charisma and the dreams, you were blinded. And
Yeah.
now the curtains are open.
But some
We see the
people are
man
still
behind
blinded.
the curtain.
You see, I viewed it as, I called it Obama mania, like people were in a trance. Yes, we can, Obama, change, change, change. And I'm not blaming people. I think it's easy to get caught up in the moment. If you go to a concert, right, you get caught up in the music of the moment. All right, we got to take a break. We're going to come back, and coming up next, so what do voters think of President Obama's lavish vacations over the past 4 years? His basketball, his golfing? Now, their answer may break your heart. That much more straight ahead.
Is a celebrity president out of touch?
I think most folks understand how hard I work.
He has no idea. No idea whatsoever.
I haven't taken a vacation in the last, since 2006.
I don't feel like he's used his time wisely.
You want to play golf? Go to Hawaii on vacations?
With America struggling as much as they are, I feel that taking those vacations, playing that round of golf, when I can't take a vacation, it sucks. You know, it sucks to see him like that.
When a common person trying to meet the $4 or $5 gasoline bill, is it worth? Is it the leadership you want to show?
The increases in the cost of living for us personally are hitting us the hardest.
Losing a home and moving to an apartment, now having to take on, 2 part-time jobs and working a full-time job and not being able to take vacations and cutting back on a lot of the necessities.
I just know that I'm working like hell and I don't know where the hell the money's going.
He talks about other people being out of touch. My goodness, just look at his actions.
And welcome back to the special edition of Hannity, and we continue now with some of the voters from the brand new film called Hope and the Change. You know, let me throw out these numbers. 1 in 6 of our fellow Americans now live in poverty. 15 million more Americans are on food stamps since Barack Obama became president. 25 million Americans un- and underemployed. Over 100 golf outings, Nantucket, Hawaii, basketball, concerts. What do you all think? Yeah.
I think it's good to be the rock star president, right? You can kind of do what you want.
Out of touch?
Very out of touch. And I think the man has a right to take the occasional vacation, but when you have 20% of your country struggling to keep their heads, to feed themselves, if you're taking your vacations, I don't think you invite the press and make it public.
Bad.
It's real bad.
You're out of work right now. You live in Pittsburgh?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wish I had the money he spends on vacations. Just the money for one vacation would put me and my family on a real nice vacation.
How long? Because I was just in Pittsburgh interviewing Paul Ryan. How long have you been out of work now?
Since last Thanksgiving.
Wow. So you're on unemployment?
I'm on disability.
You're on disability. Okay.
For me, it's not the vacation. He's a hardworking man.
Mm-hmm.
He deserves a vacation. For me, it's more he's out of touch. He's out of touch with what all of us, the middle class, have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. I had a conversation with a friend of mine before I came here, and she said to me, "Thank you for being our voice. You have an opportunity to talk for us. Maybe somebody will listen." And that's all I want, is somebody to listen. We complain, he's always doing the things that he wants to do, being able to go out with, the movie stars, get into that whole rock thing. We the middle class would just like to live a nice life. Let our children see a nice life. The thing that upsets me is that hope. The hope was for my kids. My daughter is losing her house because what she bought it for and what she's trying to sell it for is like half.
Scary.
It is very
It's
scary.
These are scary times. What I'm afraid of is we'll become Greece. 24% unemployment right now. Average American in 3 years has lost 39% of their saved wealth. Average home price across the country is down nearly 40%. Reaction. And then compare it to the vacations, the lifestyle.
What he probably spent for his family on airfare to get to Hawaii could probably pay my bills for a few months. To know that I'm spending 40 cents off of every dollar I
He could pay for a
earn.
couple of years. I know the price of an hour in Air Force One. Did you know him and his wife flew separately to Nantucket? They couldn't coordinate their schedules and flew back separately. That means twice the cost.
I think it's so sad and mind-boggling that the very things that he thinks are keeping him in touch with all of us are the very things that are pushing him further away and making him seem so much more distant and not in touch with what's really going on with the country.
We're out of time. Thank you all. I think your message, ma'am, is heard loud and clear. And I wish your daughter and all of you, I hope you get working soon. Good luck in your business. And thank you all for being here and telling your story. Appreciate it. Keep us in your prayers, Minister.
Yes, sir.
All right?
Thank you.
And that is all the time we have left. As always, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. We'll see you back here soon.